Not only is Iowa State 3-0, it's their first time going back-to-back seasons starting 3-0 since 2011-2012. And they did it all on the back of beating the team out east. The Iowa Hawkeyes fall to Iowa State. And we're talking about it today on Locked On Cyclones.
You are Locked On Cyclones, your daily podcast on the Iowa State Cyclones, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Cyclones, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Shout out to you for being here every single day, making this your first watch or listen of the day. I appreciate it more than you know, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcasting platform. Be sure to hit subscribe so we can all prove once and for all, just like our team did on the field today, that it is, in fact, a Cyclone state. Today, obviously, we're breaking down the game. We're breaking down Iowa State's victory over Iowa, 16-13. The ins, the outs, the offense, the defense, the special teams. My initial reaction without having broken into everything. I can't wait to do this. I cannot wait to do this. But first, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is around the corner. It's actually currently going on. So visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now. Iowa State comes away with the victory over Iowa, 16-13, on the leg of the legend Kyle Konrardy, going 3 of 3 on the day. This was an electric game. If you can't tell, I'm sunburned. If you're listening, I just got back. I still have my shoes on from the trip out to Ames. Maybe realize Ames is by far the greatest city on the entire planet, and I cannot wait until I get the opportunity to live there again. But man, was this one electric. Big noon kickoff, Barstool college football show. The environment was unreal. We were in the stadium about an hour before kickoff, and the student section was completely full. Not even an inch in the student section with an hour to go before kickoff. We got to sit on the hill. I believe it was the east side, and that thing was full just a few minutes after we sat down. So this place filled up quick, and it stayed full. I don't think probably more than maybe, I would guess, like 40 people left over the course of this game. It was entirely full to the last second because it did come down to the wire. This game, I mean, as far as CyHawk games go, what more can you ask for as an Iowa State fan? This was a great game through and through. To start the game, I certainly thought Iowa State had the momentum. Then you get to the second, middle of the second to the end of the third quarter. Seemed like Iowa really had something figured out. And then we all knew Iowa State was going to come around at the end of this one. What an electric game, and honestly, a pivotal game for Iowa State. I'll talk more about that in the third segment, so don't go anywhere. But my initial reactions are, one, that Iowa State is a legitimate contender. I do think that Iowa State has the capability to be a top-end team and also be a top-end program for years to come. 2, I think the offense is there. I really do. 3, I think the defense was solid. But more, I think, importantly, the special teams is so up and down right now. We have maybe one of the best, if not the best kicker in the entire nation, and yet we are making mistakes like crazy in the special teams department. Now, I'm going to be completely honest with you. Today's show, we are not being negative. We are completely positive today. I am going to live in delusion a little bit here, and I am totally okay with that. I don't need to sit here and nitpick what I thought I saw from the defense while Iowa was on their run, scoring 13 points. I don't need to sit here and talk about the referees or whatever, because guess what? Iowa State came away with the win. And Iowa State was, quite frankly, the better team in today's showdown. Like, they just were. There was certainly a little bit of a battle. It was Iowa State maybe versus 2 teams out there. It was Iowa State maybe against themselves at some points in this game. But at the end of the day, Iowa State was the better team in this game. Now, let's take a look at the offense first. Iowa State, passing. Well, guess what? Rocco backed. That says enough for you right there. Going 18-27 on the day with 134 yards through the air with a touchdown as well. The sole touchdown for Iowa State came through the air to, I believe it was at Bramer. Yes, it was Bramer. Electric, of course. I thought that Rocco had he made a lot of good decisions in this game. I thought that there were a lot of throws. I don't even know if it was like 2 or 3 throws that they looked like they were overthrows, but from where I was sitting, it was pretty clear to me he was throwing just to put attention on how bad Iowa was holding Iowa State. Defensive pass interference down the field would have been a wide open wide receiver. Iowa decides to basically hang on and get dragged. And then Rocco's like, yep, I'm going to throw the ball over there. So his completion percentage isn't quite as high as I think it maybe could have been had those penalties been observed. But nonetheless, that was his stat line, 18 to 27, 134 yards through the air. Rocco did enough in this game. Rocco absolutely did enough. On the ground for Iowa State, Sama finished with 12 carries and 47 yards. Hansen with 11 carries and 46 yards. So almost an exactly equal split on the ground, both with a long of 11 yards. I'm going to be completely honest. We're doing some box score watching right here. The running back room for Iowa State, I thought, did a lot in this game. Rocco also had 5 rushes for 11 yards, and I think that those maybe were even more grandiose. They were definitely big rushes from Rocco in this game as far as magnitude of the play itself. Sama and Hansen, I will say that the Hansen situation, I have not got a chance to go back and look at this game in detail. I have basically what I have in my notes right here and my memory, and I did watch the highlights, but they only have the highlights for like 4 minutes, so that doesn't really help me in this case. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that Hansen was taken out in a similar fashion to the Kansas State game. I think he was gone for about that middle, 2 quarters. And when he came back in the game with fresh legs at the 8:30 mark, I believe is when Iowa State got the ball to end the game, excuse me. That was when I kind of put 2 and 2 together that we were going to run this clock down, because with 8.5 minutes to go, Iowa State can effectively either choose to try to score quickly or take a shot and give the ball back to Iowa, which is a very risky play, or run the entire clock out. Now, that's risky if you don't convert on points, because now you've effectively shortened the time that you could have if you get the ball back. It's kind of a weird situation. It's really a coaching dilemma. Which side do you choose? And I thought once Hansen was out there, it was pretty clear we were going to be running this clock out, and it worked. It was an effective strategy. Receiving through the air, we had Bramer led the team in receptions with 4. Eskelson led the team in yards with 39. Relatively even split across this entire game of wide receivers. Eskelson had 2 for 39. Burkle had 3 for 33. Bramer had 4 for 18. And Sowell had 2 for 17. Xavier Townsend also had 1 for 6 in there. We've got, a 2, 4, 6, 8 different receivers catching a pass in this one with 1 touchdown on there. This game was just offensively very sound for Iowa State. Nothing ridiculous, nothing too crazy. I thought there were definitely plays that could have been made that were quote unquote left on the field. But for the most part, Iowa State did what they needed to do in this one. I will be completely frank with you and say, I thought this game was going to be a high scoring affair. I definitely thought Iowa State was going to put up big points, and there was a chance that the Hawkeyes were going to kind of do the same, and we'd end up with a ridiculously high scoring game. The fact that a 13-16 final had probably closer to 70,000 people, if we're going to be completely honest with how full that stadium was, in their seats, the entirety of that game speaks to the power of the CyHawk rivalry. That game was, by many standards of across the nation, not a good game. Who wants to watch a 16-13 game? That game was awesome. And Iowa State did enough. Obviously, as I mentioned, Kyle Konrardy, 3 field goals, the 1 touchdown to Bramer from Rocco, of course. You can't ask for much more than that. This team came out and did what had to be done, on offense especially. Defense, we will talk about here in just a second, but I got to get my just overall thoughts. Iowa State is a team. Like in a really, really good way. And it is, in fact, a Cyclone state for yet another year. We'll talk more about the impacts of this game down the road in the third segment. We've got a lot to talk about here today, and I can't wait to get back to this. Monday. But holy cow, what a game offensively for Iowa State. We'll probably even honestly come back to this, but we're going to go to defense next, right here on Locked On Cyclones. It's the weekend. It's time to look back at Iowa State's game and crown this week's MVP on who delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. It's obvious. Iowa State's Kyle Konrardy delivered in the biggest way, not biggest way. This guy showing up 3 for 3, 54-yarder, back-to-back years to beat Iowa. Give the guy the statue already. Are you kidding me? Just like Kyle Konrardy delivered for Iowa State, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you can save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season, and you can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day, only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through 11/18, November 18th. Today's episode is also brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who choose to do more than simply move. They follow what moves them every time they drive. And that's what makes Mazda stand out. They go beyond safety, style, and performance to deliver a driving experience that feels alive in every detail. You can feel it the moment you get behind the wheel. Smooth handling, intuitive controls, and standard all-wheel drive in every crossover SUV. Whether it's a quick drive to practice or a weekend road trip, Mazda makes every drive feel special. It's the small details that make the big plays. And just like there's more to every player, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. Iowa State really showed up in all three phases of this game. Some would say that's definitely a polarizing statement because of the special teams and the defense for a good portion of this game. But they did enough to win. And that's my opinion here at Locked On Cyclones, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am still elated about this game. Like, I cannot tell you guys genuinely how big this game is to the state of Iowa. Like I said, we'll talk about this later. There are going to be people out there that aren't from Iowa State, probably a lot of Hawkeye fans. There are going to be some Hawkeye fans that respect what happened today, but there's going to be a lot of people that are going to find something to tear down about Iowa State, this, that, the other thing. Whatever. Look, Iowa State did enough to beat Iowa. These games are always a knockdown, drag-out, slugfest, right? Like, it's never exactly what Iowa State has in mind or Iowa. Sometimes you just got to find a way to get out of the fight at the end of the day as a victor, and Iowa State did that in this one. We will talk on Monday about the things that Iowa State needs to work on. But like I said, we are staying positive in this one. Looking at the defense. Holy cannolis did Iowa State show up on defense. Through the air, Mark Gronowski nearly doubled his passing yards from last week with 83, 13 to 24 on the day with an interception, giving him a QBR of 29.3. The Iowa rushing attack totaled up 131 yards through 39 carries. So I feel pretty good about that. One rushing touchdown, on the ground. This one, to me, I thought that Iowa State came out early, and it was pretty clear that Iowa State was going to dare Mark Gronowski to throw the ball, and they were okay with hunkering down on the run, forcing Iowa to throw it through the air, something that I thought was, we talked about this, and that was something that Iowa State could probably get away with. It worked. There was a period in time where it looked like Mark Gronowski might have figured things out, figured out how to use his legs. He did finish this game with 16 carries, 37 yards. It felt like more than that. Maybe it was just that he was picking up the yards he needed to, but every time it felt like he was on the move, it was relatively successful. And I will say there was definitely a period of time where I thought if Mark Gronowski can get his legs going underneath him, feel good about it, feel like he's back where he's like able to play a game of football again, we could have a problem on our hands. But it felt like every time Iowa was starting to figure something out, Iowa State came back and had a really strong answer. There were multiple times in this game where Iowa just flat out got some help. Okay. Definitely, that's just part of it. And I believe they were Big Ten refs that Iowa brought over. Take that how you will. But Iowa State they played hard, and they made sure that Iowa knew they weren't backing down in this one. The interception was maybe the biggest part of this game. Like, it was just huge. Obviously, we're going to give that credit to it's totally moved around on here. I believe it was Cooper, number 4, Jeremiah Cooper. Yes, Jeremiah Cooper. Doug. All right. The guy is flying around out there, making some huge plays in this game. Did finish the game with 4 total tackles, 3 solo, and a TFL in there. Obviously, that pick was enormous. 24-yard return is what I've got on here. The biggest talking point on defense was the sacks. Okay. Well, before we get there, let's talk about 6 tackles for loss. I felt pretty good about. There was definitely a presence of Iowa State in Iowa's backfield. You compare that to Iowa, who only had 3 tackles for loss this game. But the sacks, we will talk more about the defensive pressure in Monday's show. But the defense showing up with basic, I don't know what the 2 plays were at. They were both under 2 minutes. I believe it would have been right around like 145 and 140, maybe 135 or whatever it was. But the second and third downs for Iowa on that last drive to be back-to-back sacks were, I mean, it's hard to even wrap your head around the amount of clutchness that Iowa State defense showed in that moment, because you had 3 sacks on the day, and 2 of them came when Iowa's back was up against the wall, down by 3, had the ball, had the chance to drive the field and to really wreck what Iowa State had done all day. To put a pin in it and say, yeah, you guys played all right, but we ended up with the winner, or we, maybe force overtime or whatever. No, Iowa State said, yep, all right, it's time to clean up shop. Let's go ahead and just make our presence known really quick at the end of this one. Boom, sack, boom. See you later, Mark Gronowski. I can't even, it's so hard to just conceptually understand what happened in that one. And I think a lot of this does come down to how well the secondary played today. I thought the secondary for Iowa State held their own in a ridiculous way. They obviously had Mark Gronowski seeing some ghosts out there, because I will say there were some moments where Iowa wide receivers were pretty open. They were, at least from our vantage point, which we would have been right behind Mark Gronowski on a few of these throws. There's a flag route that it would have been a tough throw for sure, and there's a chance that it gets picked off, but he had him pretty open, and he was clearly scared to throw the ball. He was just a little bit unsure. It looked like he felt uncomfortable, which is, hey, that's Iowa State fans for you. That is Iowa State Jack Trice culture for you. That's big game culture. That's what it is. And that was huge, I think, in this one. The fact that stadium was literally packed to the absolute gills the entire time, and it was pretty ridiculously loud, I thought. I actually thought it was really loud. I think that played a big part in this one, because there were moments, yes, where Iowa State secondary did get beat, and Iowa probably could have passed for more yards. But Gronowski was just unsure. It was a little rattled in this one. For the most part, though, I thought Iowa State secondary covered so well that, you saw it made our pass rush look bad. You saw Mark Gronowski back there bouncing around for 7 seconds or whatever, and then you throw a quick little 5-yard pickup, and it's everyone's all oh, how can he possibly, how is this happening? And I'm like, well, yes, the pass rush we will talk about on Monday, because this is a positive show, but you can't expect the secondary to cover for 6-8 seconds. It's almost impossible. It's a very tough thing to do. Obviously, someone's going to break free if he's got that much time back there. And if it's not he wasn't picking up 60-yarders. So I'm not honestly too upset about that. I thought that they played really well. The longest receiving pickup on the day was 22 to Jacob Gill. We did not give up any nukes in this one. I thought the secondary fought their tails off and played ridiculously well. Tackles on the day. I'm not going to name every single player. Just 34 solo tackles, 64 total. The team showed up. They flew around. They did. There was a lot of conversation of, can Iowa State shut down Iowa's offense? Oh, they're going to be able to do it. I don't know. Yes, they did. I feel very confident in saying that. A total yardage for Iowa on offense of, what would that be? 100, 200, 210, 214 is my math. 83 plus 131. Yeah. Yeah, I'd call that a win. I would call that a win. Let's talk about the big term, long-term kind of effects of this game. Obviously, the special teams kind of wrap it all up in a big bow, but boy, this one's going to be a fun one to break down for the next week. We're coming right back after this. Cyclone fans, are you still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. Use my limited time promo code football and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You could make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas you already needed. At first, I thought it was too good to be true, but it's totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now using my limited time promo code football for a limited time 25 cent per gallon bonus. That's promo code football. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. If it's player props, building a same game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds, it's got it all. It's quick, it's easy, it's the best way to add a little more energy to your Sundays. So if you're ready to play, let's go. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Iowa State is the victors in the CyHawk game. Today, just a few hours ago, I was up in Ames, Iowa, and I witnessed one of the arguably greatest games I have maybe of all time. It's certainly in that conversation, and a monumental win for Iowa State. We're talking about it here at Locked On Cyclones, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I cannot understate how big this game was, and we'll get back to that in a second. But boy, do we need to talk about Kyle Konrardy. I mean, my goodness, Iowa State. When you have a weapon like this in Kyle Konrardy, whether it's Iowa State or Alabama or pick an ACC team, Clemson maybe, you will win games. Period. And this is case in point. Iowa State able to get in the end zone one time, sure. But boy, 9 points from my boy Kyle Konrardy and a 54-yarder to seal it. And I tell you what, 54 yards maybe last year felt a little bit more nerve-wracking. It was definitely a different feel in that game. If you remember how it came down with, less than, I think, 30 seconds left, that Iowa State gets the ball. We move it up the field. Big catch from Knoll. We're kind of on the edge here, forced to kick this. Like, can we do it? And this season, it felt like, okay, it's fourth down. We're going to kick it. Kyle's going to put it through, and Iowa State's going to be up 3. That's exactly how it felt. And the fact that is the mindset we have going into a go-ahead 54-yard field goal in a rivalry game. Granted, yes, you are at home. You're not overseas in the stadium out east is what we'll call it. Like, that is a tougher environment, but still, you're in front of all your fans, all of your peers, all of your family and friends, whatever. That's a tough kick. You understand what's on the line, and Iowa State has got a dog in Kyle Konrardy. Not only is he physically gifted, but he is also mentally ridiculously strong. We talked about that coming up into this week, where he was at mentally, his reaction to his 63-yarder, his kind of reflection on the 54-yarder from last season, his look ahead to this game. I said, boy, oh boy, if Iowa State's got one in Kyle Konrardy, because look out. And it obviously proved to be a problem in this one, which does make sense, right? In a CyHawk game, I don't think anybody's too shocked that Kyle Konrardy comes away with 9 points for Iowa State. Obviously, the 54-yarder, the one that everyone was looking at, and also, I guess we shouldn't look over, hit the extra point as well. Comes away with 10 of Iowa State's 16 points, technically, which is kind of ridiculous. I just thought that was worth throwing out there, because if you have a kicker that is not quite feeling it or is not quite have the range, you really I'm stuttering, but it completely changes the way that this game is played, right? It completely changes your offensive strategy. It completely changes at the end of the game, of course, but potentially even the situations you're put in. If you miss, I believe it was like a 44 that he hit at one point, somewhere around there. I think that was the first one. Like if you miss that field goal, now what happens? Momentum's different. Iowa's got the ball instead of a kickoff. Like there's all of these different factors that go into this. And my goodness, like just a quick shout out to Kyle Konrardy. Like tag him, whatever you got to do. Let the man know that he is loved in Ames. And this guy is an absolute, I think, a legend even at this point in Iowa State culture, lore, history, whatever you want to look at it as. 2 go-ahead field goals over Iowa, both 54 yards in length, back-to-back years. Unreal. I mean, simply unreal. Now, to take a look at this game as a whole, we're not going to take a ton of time on this, okay? I will try to keep this brief, but this was a monumental win for Iowa State. And I get it. Every Hawkeye out there that's seeing this is going to say to me, yeah, of course, it's Iowa State's Super Bowl. And I would love to go back through all of the comments that were left on these videos, because trust me, I read them all, and I read all the mentions on Twitter at Nick_Marvin. I love the community that we're building here. Hit subscribe down below if you haven't already. It's completely free. We're really having a good time. But some of those comments I'd love to go back and comment on. And I hear Iowa fans say, this is Iowa State's Super Bowl. There's some truth to that, but it's also, in a way, Iowa's Super Bowl, I would argue. It is an important game in the state of Iowa, but it's more than that. It's way more than that. This game for Iowa State was somewhat of a definer as far as where is the program at. And I'm going to take your attention to essentially 2 plays. You could narrow it down to 1, or you could expand it to 3. And I think we're going to go with the 1 for now. We'll talk more about this on Monday because, like, I'm not going to be able to stop talking about it. The tip catch situation, to me, was basically some higher power saying, all right, Iowa State, we've seen what you've gone through. We see what you've instilled in this culture. We now bestow upon you the opportunity to be a legitimate college football contender. That's what I saw in that tip catch, because I think prior to last season, you go back 2 years and any point really before that, that is a throw and play that Iowa picks and sends to the end zone, or at the very least, intercepts. Like almost 100 times out of 100. It is ridiculous, the unluckiness that Iowa State has had in those kinds of situations. It's just almost inevitable. But this time, Iowa State comes down with the ball. Not even an incompletion. Iowa State comes down with the ball. That, to me, and I know that it's like there are other plays that I like with the one-handed pop pass, right? Or Xavier Townsend making his mark, which we haven't even got. Oh, my goodness. I cannot wait for Monday. I cannot wait to talk about this game more. Like, seriously, this was a huge one. This was so much fun. But that, to me, was a sign. Iowa State is a contender. This is a tough game that you win over a Big Ten opponent and a rival, 13-16. You made huge plays in this one. You showed you can really compete at a high level. And I know that Iowa fans are not going to necessarily agree. I get it. But I think Iowa State is no longer this team that plays football on the side, that they also do a lot of research at, like this university. I think Iowa State now is absolutely becoming a contender. Obviously men's basketball, but football, like, and all the other sports too, like cross country and track and field, like ridiculous. But I think that this game, to me, was a real indicator of where Iowa State's at and what the future looks like. I really, truly believe that Iowa State is up and to the right in almost every way, shape, and form. And it is one of the best times to be a Cyclone, period. I mean it. I cannot tell you how fired up I am, how privileged I am to get to have gone to this game. This was an unreal game. Shout out to every single person that went to Jack Trice today and made this an environment that was obviously unforgettable for myself, but for Big Noon Kickoff and Barstool College Football, they all had great things to say about it, and it made it a very tough place for Iowa to compete as they fall 13-16 to Iowa State. Iowa State now moves to 3-0, 2-0 at home. we got a next one, obviously, coming up. Arkansas State got to start 4-0. Got to start 4-0. But for now, let's celebrate this win. There's bigger things on the horizon, but boy, does it feel good to have the CyHawk trophy residing in Ames for yet another year. Hit subscribe down below so we can prove that it is, in fact, a Cyclone State. And boy, come back. Come back on Monday because we're going to have some fun chatting about this game yet again. Leave your comments on the game down below or on Twitter at Nick_Marv. I want to hear your thoughts. I cannot wait. It's a Cyclone State, baby. Until next time, Cyclone fans. Sayonara.